All right. Welcome, Emily Brown Levis, to the Self-Employment Success Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. For the listeners, this is a very special podcast for me because Emily is actually my sister-in-law. As of just over a year ago, they just celebrated, her and my brother-in-law just celebrated their 1 year anniversary. And so Emily is family turned one of our best friends, which is awesome. And so really excited to have you here. And excited for you to share with the world your story because you've had such an interesting story with self-employment and entrepreneurship, kind of a journey along the way. So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself now and kind of where your business is as it stands today.
Sure. Like you said, my name is Emily, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I was doing the math today. I've been in the field for 10 years. I graduated from my grad program, and that's a lie. That is a lie. One of the things I wanted to share today is that therapists are good at math.
That's okay. That's why there's finance people.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's why we need you. No, I graduated in 2016. So I started in the field. I started graduate school in 2013. But yeah, I've been licensed and I specialize in couples therapy. When you're a licensed marriage and family therapist, you can really work with whoever you want, individuals, families, couples. And I was always drawn to couples, to marriage work. And so I've been doing that for as long as I've been able to. And it's just a passion of mine. I love it so much. And I currently own my own practice. I've been in a partnership before. I've been employed by a private practice in the past. But yeah, as I've gone just over the years, getting to know myself as a business person, as a person, the private practice, the solo private practice is where I'm at right now.
That's awesome. And you are not only a marriage and family therapist, but you're also a supervisor, isn't that right? So you actually supervise other marriage and couples counselors as well.
Yeah. And so it's kind of hard to explain sometimes, but I'm a supervisor through the Board of Virginia. So meaning like any marriage and family therapist that wants to become licensed, I can supervise them. But then because I'm a marriage counselor, I also have a special designation as an emotionally focused therapist. And so that's kind of a separate credential from just being licensed in the state of Virginia. And so that's really where I identify the most is with this organization of people who are experiential therapists that help create strong bonds between couples, between loved ones. And so in that circle, I'm also a supervisor. I also help people train to become certified in that model of therapy.
Okay. That's awesome and really impressive.
Thank you.
So like you said, you started off as an employee, moved to partner, moved to solo business owner.
Yeah.
And so many people, I feel like it's almost, well, and I'm a specialist in the counseling world, but I feel like you can just be an employee.
Know more than most people.
I've done lots of therapy. But you can just be an employee of a firm your whole career and they kind of help you, like they provide clients for you and all that.
Yeah.
So I guess tell us how you got started and then what prompted you to leave the employee world and start kind of progressing on the entrepreneur side of it.
Sure. So yeah, a lot of people when they leave graduate school jump into what we call agency work. And so that's kind of very much employee, hours are set for you. A lot of burnout happens in agency work. And so I like to just give a disclaimer about that. I never worked in an agency. I was always in the private practice world. And so even my internship was in a private practice. And so I think really what drew me into private practice were a number of things, but really my supervisor, my mentor at the time, just really created this business that she loved and that worked for her. And I remember one thing she always said was, I don't want to be anybody's boss. Like that's just not what I'm about. And when you're a resident, you're employed. But then once you are licensed, you can just be like a 1099, an independent contractor. So very quickly into my career, I was a 1099. I kind of got used to being in a practice. So I had the security of clients being sent to me, supervision when I needed it, an office space, all that stuff was part of the deal. But I slowly kind of got into filing taxes a certain way and all the good stuff that comes with being a 1099. I literally think I bought 1099 for dummies, like when I was stuff.
Honestly, that's probably more than most 1099.
Maybe. And so I kind of got a taste of it over time. And really, when I was in the partnership, there's so many great things about that too that I kind of miss now. The shared emotional load of like, I had a long day and at least my business partner knows exactly what I'm going through, what I'm facing. But then there's obviously having a partner, there's collaboration, there's things that you have to there's limitations to partnership as well. And so I was in my partnership up in Northern Virginia, and really it kind of happened all at the same time that I met my husband, Ryan Levis, who is your wife's brother.
Mm-hmm. We both married into the family.
We are Levis people. Yep. And so it kind of meant I wasn't sure what we were going to do. Ryan has a great job at a church here locally, and I was ready actually for a change. I was ready for a demographic change, really. I was in the DC, Northern Virginia space, and I was just really tired and I was over it. And so, yeah, it all just kind of worked out that I could leave the partnership, get married, move down here we live in Norfolk, and start over. And so that's kind of been my focus in the last year, has been rebuilding a practice, having a lot of the knowledge to get started, but doing it solo, which has been a whole new world.
Yeah. So to review, you kind of were a resident employee. Hitting my mic over here.
You're good.
A resident employee. Your supervisor kind of gave you the vision of not being anybody else's employee, kind of having the freedom and autonomy of being a business owner. So quickly entered the 1099 space. From there, built this partnership that was, I think your underselling, was really successful. It was a really successful partnership in Northern Virginia. And then you're kind of getting to a place of, I'm ready for a change. There are things about the partnership that are really great and shortfalls to any partnership. You meet Ryan, you're ready to get married. And so you sell your portion of the partnership, relocate to a whole new city where Ryan has a lot of contacts, but you're starting fresh.
Totally.
And then completely restarting a whole new business.
Yes.
Which, like, that is a fascinating journey in and of itself. Kind of hitting the reset button and going back to square one.
Yeah. Like, I had to grind again.
And
I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to grind again.
I already did this once.
I did this. But I am also seeing, like, how just amazing that time in Northern Virginia was, because my partner had done her grind and I kind of got to be a part of it and add to it. But really, now that I'm building it on my own, I'm like, dang.
Yeah, so much respect.
So much respect. And so yeah, fortunately, because of the training side of my business as a supervisor, I had some contacts professionally down here. But when it comes to getting clients, I mean, I can have some like clients, meaning patients or couples to work with. It's good to know a few therapists so they can send you referrals, but really your best referral source are your previous clients. I didn't have any previous clients down here. And so there was some naivety, a little bit of pride. I was like, I'm going to open the doors of my practice and people are going to flood in. There's not been a flood yet. But it started to trickle to like a mist, and now there's like a drizzle.
Yeah, there's like
really nice.
Yeah, there's like a drop, a drizzle, a stream, a river, and then a flood. Yeah, we're working our way there.
We're getting there,
slowly
but surely. But yeah, so probably the last 3 or 4 months are where I've seen I'm back to that place of earning where I was before leaving the practice.
Which, in all reality, is really impressive for the fact that it's been 1 year.
Thank you.
You know, like, I mean, you have to remember that some people like in my field, it's like give yourself a 3 to 10 year runway.
All right.
Like,
That's real.
10 is exaggerated, but 3 is really normal to just get to a place where you're like, I can breathe and see that this is going to become successful. And so rebuilding that so fast is really impressive. I'm struck by the confidence there. Like you called it pride, but I just think so many, and maybe it's because you've had the entrepreneur side before, but I just feel like so many people thinking about self-employment, thinking about entrepreneurship are stepping in, and their biggest fear is, if I open the doors, will anybody come in? Like, how do I do that? And
I've heard the crickets.
Yeah.
I've heard them.
Whereas you almost went the opposite. Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come eventually.
Right. Well, I think what part of where a lot of the confidence came in is that, and I very much attribute this to the Lord and his faithfulness. I've just had excellent training as a therapist, training that most people don't just have opportunity to get. And so being younger, but having all of this really focused training, I'm confident that I'm a good therapist. I think I'm a great therapist. But then when it comes to the business side of things and like the hustle and marketing and social media, right? Like all the things that get business today, I didn't realize that wasn't going to translate. That I'm just a really good therapist. And then, it's my business. I'm a business owner. And I can forget that. I think I can say, I have a practice. But when I say practice, I think of my clients and I think of teaching and supervision. I don't think of dollars and revenue and overhead and
quarterly taxes. And that's a really good point of the fact that I kind of equate there are different types of entrepreneurs. There's the ones that love business.
Yes.
They don't really care what their business is doing. They like working on business, and they typically hire people to work in the business, whatever it is. And then there's the people who love what they're doing, but not necessarily the business side. And so they like working in their business. And when they think of business, they think of that. They think of
what they produce or what they sell.
Yeah, the services they provide. But then when it comes to the working on the business piece, they're like, oh, this is dry and terrible. And then there's a third who I call the accidental entrepreneurs who had a hobby that started making money. And then they're like, I don't know what I'm doing at all.
Got it.
But yeah, I think that that's very real for a lot of people who, like yourself, love what you do, have great training, are really good at it. And so you're doing it, but then like, I need to work. I'm an employee and employer of myself, both. And so I need to balance those hats.
Totally. And what's tough is when I can tell myself I'm really good at the business side of things, because on the business side of things, I think I have great ideas. I have new ideas every single day. My husband is like, is this one I should really listen to? Or am I just smiling and nodding at this one?
That's because he's a Levis. Lindy does the same thing. She's like, are we actually going to do this? Or are you just a dreamer?
Right. And I'm like, write down every single one because they matter to me. Right? No, but yeah, I think I do thrive in some areas of the business world. But when it comes to just plain, simple executive functioning, clearing out my inbox, sending over that thing I said I would send over to you. I'm really bad at that. Yeah.
Which is okay and important to know our strengths and weaknesses.
Totally.
Most entrepreneurs don't have a degree in business.
Yeah.
Which is funny enough. Like most business degrees aren't actually owning a business. And so we're all out here trying to navigate something that truly is like the Wild West. Like there's a million ways to market. There's a million ways to do your taxes, to structure your business, to like.
I am an S Corp now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal.
Don't know what it means.
It essentially, for those listening, it essentially means that you are able to literally separate the employee and employer that we were just talking about.
Oh, nice.
Where you can pay yourself a salary for your employee, and because you're working in the business, and then you can give yourself a profit distribution as an employer because your business was profitable, but profit distributions don't pay Social Security tax, FICA. So you actually end up saving yourself in taxes. So as opposed to paying yourself, let's say $100,000, and paying Social Security tax on all of that, you pay yourself a $60,000 salary that pays that extra tax, and then $40,000 doesn't have that. So it is a fun little tax loophole that we're all just hoping the IRS doesn't get rid of.
Exactly. And I'm half joking. My bookkeeper told me about this.
Nice.
That's her idea. Shout out to Christy. Yeah.
Christy bookkeeper, we love you.
Yeah.
We need you. Okay, so in this process of restarting and realizing like I'm great at what I do and I just need to get the word out about that, and not having past clients who are local and referring you, how have you grown so fast in a year to the point where, okay, I'm just now making what I was making before? I'm assuming some of that is that training and teaching and professional contacts, but I guess break that down. What was that like from day one? We opened the doors.
Well, probably the hardest thing was to stick to my own boundaries. So in the very beginning, I knew that I wanted to start building a client base in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area. But because of the nature of therapy today, everything's can be virtual and online. And so I'd have people from Northern Virginia and surrounding areas up there that would be calling. Like my phone was ringing, but it wasn't ringing with clients here. And I remember having to really talk through this with colleagues and kind of create this boundary of like, I'm not going to take clients just to make money right now. I'm not going to just take clients that don't fit my ideal client. And once you've been in the field, in my field long enough, and this is probably other fields too, but like really envisioning who is my ideal client, and will I trust the process to wait for that ideal client and learn how to market to that client and all these other things. So I'd say the first thing I did was I actually like stopped my client flow. I started saying no to people who were no longer my ideal client. And then I went from wanting it to be local. I was like, okay, I can do local and virtual, but no, I want to be in person. It's been hard for a lot of us therapists to transition to working back in the office. So many people love the comfort and the access that virtual care provides. And I do too, actually. I kind of have a mix. I have some in person and some virtual, and I'll always work that way. But I knew I wanted to get back in the office. So that's probably the first thing. And then when it came to actually getting new clients, I did just start to kind of take local business where I could get it. And so that's where the training part of my business comes in. Like I said, I had some contacts here that they knew my name. They knew that I was a supervisor. And so really I started grabbing coffee with people and started building relationships that way. So currently, I actually say like 2/3 of my actual practice, my week, is training and supervision. And then the other third are clients. So reaching out to people I already knew. And then I actually did this before when I was in Northern Virginia trying to build clients for my residency. But I did this again. So I contacted local churches and sat down and met with several pastors or care team leaders and let them know that I was in the area. Other things that a lot of therapists use, like Psychology Today profiles, and you can pay to have, your names listed places, have been really hit or miss for me, so really just building relationships, I think, because what I do is so relational. So to get FaceTime with me with a pastor or, even just another provider in the area that will start to refer people to me. It's been the best way.
Something you said that I think is really so respectful or like I just have so much respect for it is I was willing to say no to people who weren't my ideal client. And in the financial planning world, especially in the like private practice, kind of independent financial planning world, there's a saying, the riches are in the niches. Essentially saying like, if you can define the people you like to work with, the kind of demographics you like to work with, that you feel confident with, and you can build your practice around that. You can market to those people. You only take on those people. You can actually end up making more money with less stress because every client isn't just a totally different situation, which can create burnout.
Totally.
But from my own experience, it's hard. It's hard to say no when you're building a business and someone's here saying, I will pay you for your expertise. And you're like, I don't think this is going to be fun to work with you, but I need to make this thing work. And so there is this like inner gut check and almost like discipline that comes with having to say, you know, I think you're going to be better served by this other person, or I'm happy to refer you to someone else, and almost let that opportunity pass you by with the, like you said, the trust that if I am diligent in this and I trust this process, I will have a practice that is not only successful, but fulfilling and fun to go to every day.
Yes.
More so than just like, oh, this person's on my calendar and they're hard, like they're not the type of person I love to work with.
Right.
And so I just think from the perspective of moving to a new city, getting married, which we're about to talk about, and starting a business back from scratch, to really hold true to that is really impressive and honestly probably what's led to success.
What I will say to that really quick before we talk about marriage, which I love,
and marriage
family therapist, but I will say that so much of that discipline and that confidence has also come from doing it the wrong way, the other way. And so a lot of us who are in my field, when you're early on in your career, and I'm sure this is with so many other fields, but it's just like you want to get hours because you want to get your credentialing. And so the more client face-to-face hours you have, the quicker you can meet your goals. And then you have agencies or practices that you're earning them a lot of money in that stage of your career. And so they're like, you can handle 3 more, right? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah, of course I can.
Of course. And when you haven't done a lot of your own internal work, which I hadn't early in my career, I was just like, yes. Yeah, sure, I can do that. And so in 2020, I actually hit a major burnout in my career. So this is actually before meeting Ryan. In my partnership, my partner was absolutely amazing through all of that, but I fell into a major depressive episode. And so we can go into that more later if you want to, but really I had to scale back everything and look at life and my values and my why and all this really important stuff. And so not only am I strict about my ideal client, but I'm also strict about how many clients I see a week. Like I know what I need to earn to feel good. And as we know, like mental health in America is
not awesome
in the whatever. I'm actually like really bad at like idioms and classic phrases, which is really funny because I am a talk therapist. So I'm like, what's the one? People help me. But mental health we're all really struggling. And so there is an endless supply of business. But to say no and to protect even down to the hours I want to work. If you can't meet at this one time I've given you, then I'm not the right therapist for you because that's what my schedule is. So that's taken a ton of internal work, support from family, from my husband, from people that help me build structure. Because again, I struggle with structure and some executive functioning. So anyway, let's talk about my husband.
Well, I want to respond to that real fast because, and I think that's true. Like in my own practice, I heard people say like, ideal client, work with that, and I didn't. And now there's a lot of me that's going back and kind of saying like, who's the right fit, which is it's more painful on the back end.
Oh yeah.
But I think it makes sense to like, there is a quantity over quality or quality over quantity.
100%.
And if you're really providing a lot of quality, you typically can actually like raise your rates. Like I'm actually an expert in this specific field because this is what I do and this is how I work. And if you want the quality of this and you want my expertise, this is kind of how it works. And if not, that's okay. Like you said, there's an abundance of business and there's an abundance of therapists. Like there's
Yes.
a financial advisor on every block. So like
Right.
if you don't want to work with me, that's great.
Right.
Maybe I'm not the best fit for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I am the best fit for someone else. And so like, but I think that takes what you said, a lot of heart work, which is hard work, to come to that place and be okay with that and be confident. And
I know my limitations.
Yeah.
And I know what works for me. And yeah, we'll go into like what success means to me, but that radically changed too.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to hear about that.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about marriage that I'm interested in is, as you know, as a marriage therapist, that
you have a wonderful marriage.
Thank you. Oh. What else? Just kidding. Yeah. Lindy makes it easy to be a husband. She's incredible. And in that, like for you, I think people would say getting married is one of the biggest transitions in life.
Yeah.
Moving is one of the biggest transitions in life. Buying a home is a huge transition. Starting a business is a huge transition. And you did all of that in 12 months. And so, and I just know like starting a business financially can be stressful and can like all of these transitions can put tension on a relationship. And you did all of them in a year with your newfound relationship. And so, I guess what was that like on the personal side? Like I'm in a new city, starting a new business with my new husband. Was that really smooth because you have all the tools because you're a marriage therapist, or was that like everything?
I have no problems.
Yeah. Or like what? I guess what was that like from a personal perspective?
You know, yeah, it's cool. I got married a little bit later in life. I met Ryan when I was 30, and so I think first and foremost, I just have so much like gratitude to be in this stage of life and to see like God's hand in everything along the way, and realizing like I wouldn't have chosen to meet Ryan one day sooner than when I met him. Like it was just so the right time in life. And so that's really, I think, helped so much being older, being a little more mature. Even when like the classic hard things happen, it's like, oh, but like this is what I've been excited to work through with somebody, or this is what building a family looks like. And so, sure, there's been like the classic things here and there. He's tidy, I'm not. I'm a spender, he's not. Things.
Yeah.
And so we're working that out. But he also has done so much of his own healing and work as well. And so I just feel like, obviously it's the reason I was drawn to him, but it's just made that process so much easier. But yeah, we're also like incredibly human. So it's been really stressful. And buying a house was a whirlwind. It's that classic, like, we're just going to go start looking. And then we bought a house by the end of the weekend. Right. How did that happen? But now that all these being on the other side, it was just hard work. Like I mentioned with the depressive episode, I have a history of depression. And so I hit some bumps along the way, feeling depressed, feeling overwhelmed, feeling lonely. I don't know if we mentioned that Ryan's also a pastor. We did. So also like new church. So that's like a whole other thing too.
Yeah, a whole other community and like layer of community.
Yeah.
Like
I became a pastor's wife overnight. LOL. And I say that I actually have a huge heart for the local church. So it fits. And didn't know anybody. And Ryan's been at this church for like over 7 years. And so entering into another part of his world. But again, I just feel like it's been happening really graciously. I remember first year I was like, I just need to know that this is all going to be hard for a year. And it might keep being hard, but I shouldn't expect it to be easy before a year. And now it's been a year and I'm like, oh, right. I have formed relationships at church. I do kind of see where I can use my gifts and my own leadership. My practice is finally where I want it. Like So part of it was just also just being gracious towards myself and having a good therapist.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I love the idea of just like owning this is going to be hard for a season.
No,
and the season could be like a year, which is, like 4 seasons. But and owning that for you, especially, that was in lots of layers, in lots of ways, because you're building foundations, not just foundation of a business, but of a marriage, of a life, of a new city. And but I think that is truly like a helpful mindset for anybody in transition, especially like starting a business. I feel like
totally.
If I had that much like grace for myself my first year, that would have been a lot smoother. Of like, this is just gonna suck for a bit. But like,
I'm gonna be uncomfortable this entire year. I'm gonna be questioning myself. I'm gonna have imposter syndrome. I'm gonna cry a lot. Not lay that on you, but yeah, I cried quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is encouraging to see that as the process goes, things do begin to work. Things do get easier. I feel like we've been experiencing that with our son, with our business, with that in our life of like, this is just going to be hard. And then the second year is hard, but less hard. And you're actually kind of used to the hard.
Exactly.
And then like third year, you're like, okay, now we're in a rhythm.
Yeah.
And like, now we're moving. And so yeah, I just love that mindset of like accepting it, owning it, and like being gracious to yourself in the midst of it, because you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that. And we married into a great family where the spouses are just so incredibly supportive. They're so nice. And also, they're all just very nice people. Oh, that's funny and true. Okay, so on your journey, what has surprised you the most of your journey through, whether it's from being a therapist to a business owner to just all the transition? What has surprised you the most?
I think I don't know.
That's okay.
Can you give me
has anything been surprising from like how like hard it's been, how easy it's been, how quickly something happened, how like, and if not, that's okay. But I would just tell me that you expected everything to go exactly how it's gone.
Yes and no. I would say I was surprised. I mean, I was definitely surprised when my burnout happened. I thought that I was keeping up with everybody. I was also in my 20s, wasn't married, and like with like a DC crew, right? And so everyone's working late, and it's like a badge of honor to, be so tired because I just worked really late, dumb stuff. And I really like am an achiever. Part of me is definitely like more of a creative, but another really strong part of me is an achiever. And I just let that achiever kind of be in overdrive for a long time. And so I think I was surprised that if I didn't keep that in check, it was like really gonna lead me to a tough place. So I'm such a therapist. I'm like, so just talking about like my inner world of myself. Hey. That's great.
That is your gift and your expertise. So yeah, let's share it.
So I think I also just did a lot of my practice without, again, any structure or boundaries. And now that I have it, I'm like,
how did I do that before?
I just started using a calendar on my phone in the last year.
Welcome to the 21st century. It's really wonderful.
You know what? I don't forget appointments anymore. It's great.
I get to work and I left my calendar behind, and it's like, well, people are going to come here today and I'll see who it is.
I'm pretty sure. And no, like early in my career when I was working way too much and all this stuff, I'd be like, pretty sure I have a 2:00, and I would just wait.
There's that executive functioning.
Yeah.
That
work
is
with me. I'm
hilarious.
great.
Yeah.
Work with me.
Yeah, you are great. And now you have a digital calendar. So if you work with her, folks, she will know you're coming.
I will know you're coming. But actually, I'm way better at that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've always shown up when we've been hanging out on time. So I'm assuming you know, and
Yeah.
that's
That's my husband drives. Yes.
Okay, so that's what surprised you the most was the kind of the burnout. And this could be the same answer, but what was the low point for you in the process?
Well, honestly, the low point. So more recently, the low point I think has been just in the building up of the business and realizing like some of my life in Northern Virginia, working in the practice I was part of, like, ooh, like I think I didn't realize how great I had it. Like, and not that I was ever ungrateful or anything like that, but just really realizing how impactful that's been, and yeah, how I got to be part of something really special. Because rebuilding it has been hard. And again, like facing some of those things of like, right, I've got to kind of wake up and make something new, make something my own. But then with the depression stuff, I mean, when I was at my lowest, I was, so many of us in the field get into being a therapist because we have either experienced therapy and it's been very helpful. Some of us think that we like can help people and we have it all figured out, which probably means you just haven't done your work yet. And so I was kind of that person. And so I had to ask myself a lot of hard questions when I was at the bottom of just, why did I get into the field? Was I trying to fix or do something inside of me? What was I not facing inside of myself? And so just, do I want to be a therapist anymore? Which had been everything. As we know, I cannot do simple math. And so
you're like, I may not be a therapist, but I'm definitely not going to be an accountant.
And so, but really, it was just like, I really, really thought about it, about leaving the field, just because it's hard work, what we do, to sit in people suffering all day long. And it's a joy and a privilege. Honestly, joy sounds funny, but it really is when you see what love can do, how people can heal. So anyway, it was going to be hard to leave that, but I really did have to wonder if, with my own mental health and just what my job requires, if it was still a good fit. And it's a great fit. So, but that was hard to question kind of everything up to that point.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, and it makes sense when I think about, especially as an emotionally focused therapist, which I'm sure all therapy is like this, but like entering into anybody's suffering takes a toll on you. You're not going to be like arm's length with that.
No.
And
I'm
also getting to
regularly like weeping in sessions.
Like
weeping sounds like crying, but like a glistening tear. I let myself be impacted by people's experience every day.
And so like, yeah. And then also getting to see the beauty of redemption and healing, like that takes just takes a huge emotional capacity. And then also when you're kind of, like you said, doing your own heart work and like, is this healthy for me?
Is it just too much right now?
Yeah.
Man,
that is some serious like soul searching. That's soul searching beyond just who's my ideal client, which is some soul searching.
Yep.
But like that's some real, like,
much deeper.
Who is Emily Brown Levis, and what is a good fit for her?
Totally. Yeah. And so that was 3 years ago now, 2.5 years of when I was at like the very bottom. And so it's like, as I've created structure and as I've redefined what does success look like and all these things alongside treatment and my own therapy and learning about myself. I feel like I'm in like the healthiest place I've been in my whole life, probably. And not that I've hit a ceiling by any means. I hope there's more. But just feeling so much more balanced, and life feels more predictable. And yeah, and I'm still on that journey, but yeah, I've found a business that works for me. I've created a business that works for me.
That's wonderful.
My family. Yeah.
And so this is a podcast about success.
Yes.
But if you ask anybody on the street, what does that word mean? You'll get a different answer. Everyone defines success differently. And so what does success look like for you? And how will you know when or if you achieve it?
So it's funny. I had somebody ask me this probably like right before my burnout happened. But I knew I was overworked. And so I was talking to a counselor at the time. And she asked me this like a similar question, like, what if you could wake up tomorrow, 10 years from now or whatever, like in the future, what would be like, what brings you peace? And I like closed my eyes, and this image came to me of being like a crisp fall day, and I'm holding the hand of like a 3 or 4 year old, my 3 or 4 year old. I'm married. There's no husband in the picture. Yeah, but see you. And Ryan's over here. And it was like I was still dressed professionally. So it's like I was working, but I had no stress. I had all this time set aside. I was walking her to school. And it just like came over me, this idea of I want to be available for my family. I want to continue to use the gifts that God's given me. And then just the peacefulness of it all was like the most overwhelming thing. And I just wanted flexibility. And I feel like that's the biggest thing that being in private practice in particular allows for me. I make my own schedule. I don't have to ask for vacation if I need a day because I want to go to a Pee Wee football game, which doesn't happen during the work week, but you know what I mean.
Those 10 a.m. on Tuesday Pee Wee football games.
Yeah. And so again, I think it's just balance. From a financial perspective, I think before the big burnout, I was like very financially independent and successful, and I had all the things that everybody else was grinding for. Like I would get massages, and I had a Peloton, and I would like do the things that I still do in moderation. But even at the top, and I was working hard and making good money, I wasn't happy. And so I've also had that lived experience too, which I think you don't know it until you get there. And so, yeah, now it's not making this amount of money or living in this kind of house or this kind of zip code. It's just more about balance. Yeah. And wholeness. So
I love that. I mean, that the image of you walking my niece to school. I mean, there was no talk of what you were wearing, where you lived. It was just, it's a beautiful day. I have a family, and I have time and space to show up whole for them, and I still have my practice, and I'm still showing up whole. Like just the way you painted that felt balanced. It felt like a
right, yeah,
which was nice.
My shoulders just like go down.
That's awesome.
What I'm just realizing is that we just bought a house, and it's like a block away from the elementary.
No.
Well, that's beautiful. God's good.
I love that. I love that. And I'm excited for when you guys have babies, which is a weird thing to say on a podcast.
Not the first one.
Well, thank you. I mean, obviously I love you, and it's so fun to hear you share your story, and just really appreciate you being on the Self-Employment Success Podcast.